a plaque for dedicated and outstanding service. We have been here as a part of the Von Radio family for many, many years. I would think with my years as a heavyweight, and then my years as on the mark, probably 20 years, if not more. And it has been really an enjoyable experience. I was in the States recently, and people there were saying to me that they still listen religiously to the show on a Wednesday night. And I think that speaks a lot in terms of the power and the reach of Von Radio. And I continue to thank Weber Herbert and, of course, Merrick Herbert, deceased, for putting this whole Von Radio together. It has really been of tremendous benefit to the people of Nevis and the wider St. Kitts and Nevis and the wider Caribbean, and I want to thank them. So thank them very much for this award, a very pleasant surprise, and I'm truly grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening, at the start of the show, as I often do, I wanted to touch on a few things. First of all, I have been traveling. I'll get to that later, and because I've been traveling, I believe Troy Liburd has been handling the show for me. I want to thank Minister Troy Liburd for his continued contribution in filling in when I'm not here. He has been very consistent, and I only need to call him. He's normally very ready, willing, and able, and does a fantastic job. I want to thank him for that. I want to send out some condolences to the family of Kyra Merchant right there in Pond Hill. Kyra passed away quite suddenly, and I had not had the opportunity to extend my condolences publicly. I've done so privately, but certainly not publicly. I want to extend my condolences to her family. Kyra is someone I knew well, a very close friend, and indeed, she and I were communicating via messenger service, and she was telling me how she was and all of that, and never, of course, did we expect that she would have passed away. And so, to her family, to her son, to her siblings, to her husband, and to the entire team, I want to extend my very deepest condolences, and to say, as I always do, that I hope that the prayers of so many for you and for comfort for you, that those prayers will reach their intended destination, of course, God Almighty, and that He, in His wisdom, will see it best to comfort you in this time of bereavement. I would also want to extend condolences to the family of Calvin Simmons, because this afternoon we again were hit with the tragic news of Mr. Simmons' passing, a young person, only in his 50s, and he passed away quite suddenly today. And I want to extend my condolences to his family, entire Simmons family, particularly to Chanel Simmons, who works with me at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in St. Kitts, and to the entire community there, that entire community of Beach Road, Pond Hill. They're all at this point suffering, and I really want to extend our heartfelt condolences to all of those who mourn. If there are others, of course, who might also have lost loved ones, please accept my condolences. It is a very difficult time for anyone when they lose loved ones, and all we can do is to try to comfort you. Death is something that all of us have to look forward to. Some of us say that we must ready ourselves for the inevitable, and indeed, yet when it comes, it causes so much trauma, because even though we know it will come at some point, we all, of course, want it to be delayed as long as possible, and particularly when people die young, as Calvin and Kyra would have gone very young, it really hits us even harder. And so I just want, on my own behalf, on behalf of my family, on behalf of all of us here at Von Radio, to extend our condolences to the families that find themselves mourning. I also, of course, want to send greetings to my very, very dear friend, everybody knows as Pin, but Cynthia, also there from Pond Hill. She is not doing so well. She's been hospitalized. I know she spoke to her this afternoon. She said that she'll be tuned in to On the Mark. And so, Pin, if you're listening, there in your hospital bed, just know that we're praying for your safe recovery, and that we look forward to seeing you very soon. We understand that the family is going through a lot right now with the loss of Kyra, but certainly we hope that you will rest and recover so that you can come back to us and be a part of what. So I send my deep thoughts out to all of those who might be suffering in some way, who are ill or affected in some way, that you may have a speedy recovery. And Pin, if you're hearing me, you did say you'd listen. I want to send you my love and ask that the Lord may grant you a speedy recovery so that you may soon be back with us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of On the Mark. I'm your host, and if you're tuned in, you must be listening to VON Radio, the voice of Nevis, the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse. Von Radio, www.vonradio.com. or 860 on your AM dial. Now, people are sending me messages from all over. I just got a message here from none other than the man called Dr. Packer. I think if you all know Dr. Packer, I don't even know what Packer, Mr. Manners, but everybody knows him as Dr. Packer. And Packer is saying that he's having his annual backyard barbecue. It's a tournament. It's not a regular, ordinary barbecue. It's a tournament. And it will be on October 13th. The Defender is a camouflage team. And Packer is going to have them all there. He's also going to have DJ Dickey. He's going to have DJ Glenbow providing some music. And Packer sent me a message. I need to read the message. Because I said, Packer, I will make an announcement for you. And Packer said to me, please make the announcement. Everybody's invited to his backyard barbecue competition with the Defenders, the camouflage team. And, he, quote, this will be the biggest thing since Barack Obama's first inauguration. That is how the man from Hanley's Road does it. Dr. Packer having his annual backyard barbecue tournament, Defender camouflage team, October 13th. October 13th. And the address again, for those of you in Florida or elsewhere who want to drive down for it, the address is 161 Crescent Street, Palm Bay, Florida, 32909. Dr. Packer says it's going to be bigger than Obama's first inauguration. That is the kind of thing that he's doing. A really big barbecue extravaganza that Dr. Packer puts on there every year. And we wish him well. Lovely guy. Everybody knows him, full of fun. I like to come on radio and hail him and say that there's no culture armor without Dr. Packer. The only man I know who jam from Gingerland to town in a pair of boxer shorts. And that is Dr. Packer for you. So I want one and all to go out who can and be a part of that. I'm told that an FDC event in Washington, D.C. went very well. I want to congratulate them as always for the fine work that they've been doing in supporting Navajans in the diaspora and Navajans at home. I myself have been out for quite some time. I had initially to go to the funeral service of Cedric Harper. I think all of us would have known Cedric Harper. He was a household name here in Nevis, being as he was the first principal of the Gingerland High School. And Mr. Harper passed away after long years of service in education, to service as a lawyer and the law service in teaching generally, and the service as a diplomat. He was St. Kitts and Nevis's High Commissioner to Jamaica. He passed away after an illness, and of course he leaves to mourn his family. I'm most familiar with Doris Stevens, of course, but he had another sister as well, another family in St. Kitts. He was originally from St. Kitts, I believe the Keon area, and we would want to extend our condolences again to his family. We went there for the funeral. I was very, very pleased at the turnout. It was at the Mona Chapel, and many people came out, including former Prime Minister of Jamaica, Bruce Golding, and of course our own Prime Minister was in attendance and delivered remarks on behalf of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to someone who had served and served us well. He was laid to rest in Jamaica, where his beloved wife was also laid to rest, and we again want to extend our condolences to his family. From Jamaica, both the Prime Minister and I traveled to New York for the 73rd United Nations General Assembly. I believe it was a very successful UNGA, as we call it. The Prime Minister, I think, did an excellent speech as our statement that we do each year. And I think that the Caribbean, it was a fine, fine hour for the Caribbean. We had excellent speeches from our Prime Minister, from Prime Minister Shasta Neil St. Lucia, from Prime Minister Gaston Brown in his own inimitable style from Antigua and Barbuda. And then I think the coup de grace was the unscripted speech by Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, giving her first speech, her maiden speech as Prime Minister of Barbados, and she just knocked it out of the park. There was not it created such a buzz in the room to see her stand there, the Prime Minister of Barbados, speaking in fact for all of us, and speaking so passionately and eloquently to the dangers of climate change and the difficulties that we face as a region that is so vulnerable. And I think that it was the Caribbean's finest hour. We did a wonderful job, and we really, I believe, had this United Nations attention and the attention of the world. And I want to send my own congratulations to all the Prime Ministers, our own Prime Minister, of course, Dr. Harris, but also to new Prime Minister Mia Mottley for truly doing a wonderful job at the United Nations and bringing the critical issues that we face to the fore. We had lots of bilateral discussions. The Prime Minister, of course, had his schedule as Caribbean head on health. He led the first high-level NCD forum. Non-communicable diseases continue to be a major problem for us and for our people. Non-communicable diseases are diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, cancer. I realize from the statistics, and they're quite alarming, that 8 out of 10, or 80% of the deaths that we experience in the Caribbean come from NCDs. That is simply incredible, that 8 out of 10 deaths come from NCDs. We have amputations that come, of course, from diabetes. We have kidney failure, renal failure. We have blindness, all of those caused by diabetes. We have heart problems caused by hypertension. I mean, we have a host of problems, health problems, that really can, to a great extent, be avoided. And the message we have in relation to NCDs is really that much of what we experience and the ill effects can be avoided. Our people tend to eat a lot of rice and peas and chicken and cook up and all that. I myself like cook up. I say so all the time. We have to eat fried chicken, fried fish, but we have to do what we do in moderation. And we have to ensure that we eat properly and that we exercise. And we who are in a leadership position, we must take the lead and do it, if you will, by example. There used to be a time when our children were out playing cricket in the street, out playing all kinds of games. We understand that now they're on these little devices, and they spend all day on their iPhone and the like. And it is leading to a sedentary lifestyle where we're eating the wrong foods, there's no exercise, and eventually those are the triggers that lead to obesity, they lead to hypertension, they lead to diabetes. And these are very serious illnesses. They lead to a very great rate of morbidity, and they also, of course, lead to huge amounts being spent by governments around the region to treat these diseases. And so we're asking our people, and the UN launched this UN Moves program, which is modeled off something was done in Jamaica, which really is an idea to get people moving. And I have said to the cabinet just today that we here in Nevis are going to start to do more of that. In Jamaica, the Prime Minister, cabinet members, Minister of Health, etc., they get into a large public area, they have music, and everybody starts moving. Everybody know I can't dance, but I certainly can move. And so people will need to start moving. And that's the encouragement to our people to start moving, start being active. Our health promotion unit has been preaching that for many years, and we need to do more of it. So each day, please, take your health into your own hands. Go out in the afternoons or in the early mornings, whatever. Take a walk, a brisk walk for 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it may be. Exercise doesn't need to be in a gym and involve all these leg ups and chin ups and all kind of ups. It can be simply moderate exercise but done consistently. And so we are calling upon our people to please help us and help yourself deal with the scourge of non-communicable diseases. We have, as a part of that non-communicable diseases, of course, setting up ourselves to launch dialysis here. We have promised that we will do that. The construction of the hospital wing is going apace, and that is a part of what we intend to offer there. In the interim, we are training our people, and 3 of our medical staff have just returned from Taiwan, including among them young Mr. Henville, Michael Henville, who is a chef whom we've hired to guide the school meals program. And all of this is an effort in partnership with the Taiwanese government to fight renal failure, again, prevent some of the triggers. So we are trying to get people to eat better, eat in a more nutritious way, exercise, and of course, keep checking your health. Have regular checkups so that you can know what's happening with you, and if there's a problem, you can spot it early. I was, for example, quite surprised to learn about prostate cancer, a cancer that affects many men, particularly black men, and to learn that prostate cancer, if detected early, was 100% curable, but if detected too late, was 100% fatal. And that is really instructive and tells us that we must take care. A lot of us, I know, I'm included in the number, we don't like to go doctor, and black men in particular don't like doctor for some reason, but we should go even annually, get a regular checkup. When we have the free screenings, get it done. Women, you go out please and do your pap smears and the like, get it done. Pap smears can from very early detect the necessary changes that can lead to cervical cancer. In most major countries, they've almost eliminated cervical cancer because of proper treatment and proper care and proper checks and early detection. They've also, of course, introduced the vaccine for HPV, which is a trigger for cervical cancer, and something I think that we are moving in that direction here as well. But whatever you do, please take charge of your health. A penny of prevention is worth $100 of cure, and we do untold damage to our bodies and then to our finances as we try to get back our health. And so we encourage our people who still have the ability to do something about it, to get on a proper weight loss program, lose some of the belly fat and all of that. I'm struggling with it myself. As you get older, you know, you tend to put on weight. So these are things that we must address, but we address them together in a loving way and an encouraging way. And I've said to the cabinet today that we ourselves need to lead by example, and so you're going to see more of these events where we try to get people out, get people moving as part of the UN mandate and as part of our own mandate to get our people active. And so the Prime Minister led in relation to that. I thought it was a very good panel. I was able to attend for some part, but as I said, I had my own schedule, and my own schedule had me with several bilateral engagements. I'm very proud that St. Kitts and Nevis has now signed new diplomatic relations with Sao Tome and Principe. This is a twin island country in Africa. They have signed now with San Marino, a very small landlocked country in Europe. We've signed now with Bahrain, one of the Gulf countries, very important country in the Gulf. And we also signed with the Togo, the Togolese Republic, another African country. We also then signed a visa waiver arrangement with the Gambia, another African country. And if you will notice, there's Sao Tome and Principe, there is the Gambia, there is Togo, and these countries are countries that are in Africa. And what we have been trying to do, as I've explained time and time again, is to develop a closer relationship with Africa. We are part of the African diaspora, the so-called sixth region of Africa, and it behooves us to engage with the African continent. It is a wealthy continent, it is a continent full of potential, it is a continent which is quite young in terms of the population, and we feel that there's immense opportunity there for our people to harness. And it is my hope that in the fullness of time our people will be visiting Africa, and therefore we are developing this visa-free network where our people can go and African brothers and sisters can come to visit us and to see what the Caribbean is like. And so this is a plan which is a platform for further development for St. Kitts and Nevis, and we think that that is working. I'm very proud this evening to announce that since I have taken the reins as Foreign Minister, St. Kitts and Nevis has added 29 new countries as diplomatic allies, and we've added 15 new countries, including major countries such as Russia and Brazil, as countries with which we can travel visa-free. And so I believe that we are making good progress. We expect that that trend will continue. It is also demonstrative of those countries' confidence in St. Kitts and Nevis, in the stability of our country, in the growth and development of our country, and certainly confidence in the governance structure that they're seeing here, that we are a stable democracy, we are a well-governed democracy, and I believe that these countries are looking and seeing that, listen, here's a partner that we can trust. Here's some country that, even though we are small, we can feel comfortable entering into these relationships with. It is a significant sign of trust and confidence that they have in us, and I'm very proud to be a part of that effort as the Minister of Foreign Affairs at this point in the history of our country. And so we had a good week in New York, lots of meetings. We also had diaspora events. There was a gala in the Bronx to celebrate our 35th anniversary of independence. I want to thank His Excellency Sam Conda, who did a great job organizing and being a part of that and spearheading, of course, these events. And he really did a good job. He and the team there in New York. We have a very, very good foreign policy team that continues to really punch well above its weight, and I'm very grateful to them for the support that they provided whilst I was there. His Excellency Conda was with me for most of the time, and so I know the rigorous schedule that he had and that I had, because we were literally out at mornings, most mornings before 8, and we were back in most evenings, sometimes 9 o'clock at night, and that is because there were so many receptions and dinners and all kinds of things that we had to do as well as part and parcel of our engagement. We also engaged with Estonia, a country within Europe that has done some phenomenal things in terms of technology. We hope to continue to speak to them about getting some of those technological advances here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we continue to engage with countries, big and small, rich and poor, from all around the world. Our foreign policy is that we are friends of all and foes to none. We had some good meetings with the United States as well. We had good meetings with Canada, meetings with the Nordic countries, and meetings with the United Kingdom, all of which I think went extremely well as we continue to advance our diplomatic agenda and continue to move forward in a very positive way in that regard. I would have also attended the Commonwealth Foreign Ministers meeting where all the foreign ministers of the Commonwealth were gathered, and I was very happy that the intervention of St. Kitts and Nevis was important in leading the way in terms of where we went and how that meeting was conducted and various procedural issues that we were able to bring to the fore, which informed that meeting, I think, for the better. And so St. Kitts and Nevis, our voice is being heard. We are speaking up, we are speaking out, and I can tell you the world has taken notice, and that for me is very important for our little country to be on the world stage and to be performing in a way that brings pride to all of us. Whilst in New York, I received a note from Mr. James Gaskell. I mentioned it in my press conference just yesterday, who, as we know, has been very involved with the Healthy Meals for Children program here, and who has been instrumental, for example, in the Charlestown Primary School kitchen equipment and the like. He has donated and made land available for farming for the Charlestown Primary School, and he's quite keen about that. Well, he contacted and said if I had the opportunity, I should go to the Botanical Gardens there and go and see something called the Edible Academy, And I thought it was an interesting idea. We reached out and they arranged a beautiful tour for us. It was a little cold that morning, but nevertheless we went very early and we toured the Edible Academy, and it is absolutely fascinating. It is my intention to invite the person in charge of that academy to come down to assist us, because we have all the basic tools here in Nevis already. It's just a question now of putting that program together. But at the Edible Academy, they bring students in. Each team of students or each school has a little plot. When I say a plot there, they have like a wooden box with soil in it. But you're amazed at how much they plant in there: tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, peppers, and they come each week and tend their little box, if you will, their little plot. Teaches them about the plants, it teaches them about food, it gets them involved. In fact, we know that a lot of our children don't want to eat salads and the like, and it was amazing to be told that parents would come and say, you know, little Johnny doesn't eat salad, but because Johnny grew the tomatoes himself, all of a sudden Johnny's eating tomatoes because he's proud of the fact that he was the one who grew these. And so introducing children at an early age to that lifestyle, outdoor, active food, growing crops and the like, we think it's a brilliant idea, and we want to move that forward. So I want to thank Mr. Gaskell publicly for his own interest and his continued commitment to the cause of healthier eating among our children. We of course had hired Mr. Henville, who has been doing what he needs to do, but we need more structure, and certainly if we can grow more of the food that the children consume. We know that we're growing food that is of the best quality, no pesticides, and no food that's grown organically, not food that's imported that we're not sure what quality of food we're feeding our children. And so this is something we're looking at, and this is something we hope that will continue. We want the buy-in from the community, because a big complaint that we get sometimes is that we are saying inside the schools that you want healthier food, you want the children to be healthy, but right outside most of the school gates you have all the back drinks and the sweet drinks and the candy that you can imagine being sold. We understand that people need to make a living, and the local vendors, of course, who congregate around the schools to sell. But we also know that it's costing the country a significant amount of money for unhealthy lifestyles that develop young, obese children that then at quite a young age develop things like diabetes and hypertension, which then leads to all kinds of other problems. Many people for years have to live with medication and they like to control their diabetes or control their hypertension, and the cost of that is really draining on the country. So we really need to get to a phase where through dialogue, through discussion, through buy-in from the community, people start to understand that it is much cheaper to prevent ourselves from getting ill than it is to treat us once we become ill. And so I again want to thank all of those who continue to take an active interest, and I hope that, I don't know if Mr. Gaskill is listening, but if he is, I want to thank him and to say that I hope that he will continue to be a part of this, and certainly when we get the people from the Edible Academy to come and be a part here, I believe that that will be helpful to get the various bits and pieces, those who have been interested, those who are farming the lands, the children, the principals, get everybody involved and see how we can create a revolution here on the island in terms of health and in terms of healthy lifestyles. So this is something that I think is very important, something that will have long-term positive implications for our country if we can do better in that regard. And so I certainly look forward to that. And so that, in essence, was my trip to New York. It was a long trip, but I think it was rewarding for our country, and we will continue to press in that regard. Yesterday I would have had my press conference, and I would have given an update on many things. I don't think I need to repeat those. Tomorrow we will have the meeting of the Nevis Island Assembly, again consistent with my promise as the Premier of Nevis. When we campaigned, I said, vote for us, put us in office, and certain things are going to happen. One of those things was that the House will convene at least once every 2 months. More if necessary, but at least once every 2 months. And I'm very pleased that at 8 months or thereabouts, 9 months into this term of this CCM and my first term as the Premier of Nevis, that we've been able to keep that commitment to the people of Nevis. And so tomorrow we go into the House, Nevis Island Assembly, and we hope to have the first reading of 2 bills, and of course we hope to have the ministers' report on their various ministries. And we're asking the public to tune in from 10 a.m. if you have the time to come, of course, and sit in the gallery and be a part of it. But we want the parliamentary process to become more ingrained, a regular part of the governance structure here. And so we're working on that, and we'll be there tomorrow for that, as part and parcel also of our promise to create an architecture for good governance, or for better governance. We have kept our word and actualized and operationalized the integrity in public life legislation. The legal department here in Nevis, through our legal advisor, Madam Helen Lewis, she has organized now a series of seminars. She will be educating the public servants, she'll be educating the ministers and members of cabinet, the members of parliament. She'll be talking to, of course, the commissioners themselves about their role and function under the IPL legislation. It is our desire to ensure that that is completely actualized and operationalized, so that we, the people of Nevis, can have a better structure for checks and balances insofar as government is concerned, so that we can seek to ensure that only the best people come. In fact, the question was posed yesterday at the press conference, would the IPL not prevent people from coming into public life? And my answer is, if the IPL prevents you from coming into public life, then perhaps you are not suited for public life in the first place. Because if you're armed with integrity and you're not engaged in any skullduggery, then you should not be concerned about integrity in public life legislation, because you have your integrity and you bring your integrity to the fore in what you do. So what we're hoping is that if there are people out there who are scamps and want to get into government to help themselves, then this will stop you. And we hope that this will stop you at the gate so you don't bother to come. And if you're already in, this will ensure that we have a check and balance in terms of your actions while you're in government. The public has been asking for greater transparency, and I think this government is delivering. We also have passed the Freedom of Information legislation, which again is an important bit of architecture for better governance. And what that will do, of course, is allow people to have access to information from the government. And so what we're trying to do with that is, again, to ensure that we have a better structure in place, and that our people can have greater confidence that government is functioning in a way that they approve, and government is functioning in a way that is to their benefit. We will also, through the legal department, have some seminars to sensitize and educate people in relation to the operation of the Freedom of Information legislation. But in addition to that, I am very proud sitting here tonight as a Premier of Nevis to say that for the very first time in our history, we now have a fully equipped, staffed, and operational office for the opposition, paid for by the Nevis Island administration, paid for by the government, in a sense paid for by you, the taxpayers of Nevis. And you may ask why that is a big deal. Well, I can tell you. Oftentimes, dignitaries come, people come, they want to meet with the opposition. I think it was a matter of regret that the opposition didn't have an office. We have been in opposition. I spent many years in opposition, and I knew the difficulty. I used to meet people at my law office and elsewhere. But I think people want to engage with the opposition in a more formal way. And so we decided, even though because of the last election results, there is no person qualified to be appointed leader of the opposition, that Mr. Parry, the Honorable Joseph Parry, as the sole member of the opposition, should in fact have an office. And I'm very happy that all the arrangements have been made, the computers, the fax machine, the copier, everything has been put in place. He has staff that is being paid for. I think we budgeted something like $5,800 per month to deal with the rent and the various associated costs. And I want to thank Mr. Colin Dorr, the Permanent Secretary, who really led the effort on that, the Permanent Secretary in Finance, that is, led the effort in that regard. I want to thank Mr. Parry as well, because he and I were in communication about this. He recognized that this government was serious about doing something, and he had not liked, I think, 2 other locations that had been determined, and so he ultimately determined the location that he preferred. We worked with him because, of course, we felt that it was important that he be comfortable, and so that is now the position. And this is part and parcel of my pledge and this government's pledge to do things differently, to do things better, to create a one Nevis. Don't get me wrong, there will be politics, and politics is sometimes a rough and tumble business. I've been in the business and I know how to roll up my sleeves and get rough and tumble. But we feel that there is a time, as the Bible says, I think is Ecclesiastes, if I recall, there's a time for everything. And there's a time for politics and politicking, and there's a time for governance. And we are now in a governance mode. This CCM-led administration is seeking to develop the island of Nevis. Whether it's the road works now in Brown Hill, for which the people of Brown Hill are so happy and so proud, whether it is the hospital under construction and moving apace, whether it is a new pier at Wally, the police station at Newcastle, whether it is the renovations at Four Seasons that are going magnificently, whatever it is that is happening on the island, we are promoting the development of the island. And so we are interested in governance. And you may ask, well, why is Mark Brantley interested in Mr. Parry having an office? Because it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And whether whoever occupies that office, it is the right thing to do. That we treat those in leadership positions with some real measure of respect, so that they have a dignity about what they do. Because at the end of the day, they serve you. You may not agree with them. I don't agree with Mr. Parry on most things, but it has nothing to do with it. It is the right thing to do to create the necessary infrastructure. And you know, I'm here talking about it tonight because it's a big deal. It's the first time. But I'm hopeful that in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years, long after I have vacated the political stage, people will not even remember that it was something to talk about, because it will become so commonplace. Remember when you first got a cell phone, you couldn't believe this gadget. Now nobody cares because it is so commonplace. Well, that is how I want the governance structure to become. So well-oiled and well-managed that people no longer feel the need to comment on it. So whether it's integrity in public life, freedom of information, office for the leader of the opposition, making sure that the necessary things are in place so that we understand what the parameters are and the public supports those. That is what we need to get to in this country, so that it is no longer a novelty and we don't even need to talk about it. But every long journey begins with the first step. And this is an important first step. And it is my hope that our people would support it. Already someone said to me today, oh, I spent too much money on the opposition. And then somebody else called me and said, they want to never give you an office. It's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, we must not do to people as we think they would have done to us. We must do to them as we hope that they would do to us. I think we all want people to be kind and to do the right thing in relation to us. A lot of people come now and sit down in my office as the Premier of Nevis, and I know they're not supportive of me politically. They've never been supportive of me politically. Even now I hear they're going around to all the restaurants and rum shops saying the most evil things about me. But you know what? All you can do in life is do the best that you can and leave the rest. Do the best that you can and leave the rest. There will be people who will be detractors, who will hate you and say awful things about you for no reason because they can't find a reason to do it. They do it perhaps because of their own inadequacy. You don't let that worry you. Focus on doing the best that you can and understanding that each of us is only on the stage for a limited time. I believe it was Shakespeare who said that all of us are players on the stage of life. We make our entry and we make our exit. The problem that we have is those people who refuse to make their exit, but that's a different discussion for a different time. Make your entrance, make your exit. While you're on the stage, make your contribution. And I keep saying it because it's the best statement that I've heard in recent vintage. I go back to what our new Deputy Governor General, Her Honor Hailita Liebert, said. And when a youngster asked her, well, how you get such a big position? She said she never was trying for any big position. She was an educator. She did the best that she could. But it must have been that somebody was watching. And I want all of us to remember that. I keep mentioning it because it struck me as such a profound statement. Somebody was watching. So if you're working as a cleaner in the building, if you're working for solid waste, if you're working for the Ministry of Health, if you're working for TDC, if you're working for Four Seasons, do your job to the best of your ability because somebody is always watching. And it is our conduct, not our words. I can come here on this program and say the most prophetic and beautiful things, the greatest oratorical skills I can employ. But at the end of the day, the oratory and the oratorical flourish is of no consequence if your actions don't match what you're saying. And we do not always get it right. We're human, and because we're human, we're frail, and we have, of course, that what I call the frailty of the human condition. But we keep and we wake up every day and we try. That is what is important. That when we're on the stage of life, we do the best we can, understanding that people are always watching. And our hope is that when we exit that stage, people will say that when he or she was here, he or she really made a contribution. That is all that any of us can ask, because as sure as night follows day, we will have a beginning and we will have an end. And if we understand that, then it behooves us to do the best we can for everybody, and then allow history to judge us as to whether we did good or we did evil in this world. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my soliloquy for the evening. It is now about 20 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. I'm going to open the lines now at 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. And if there's anybody calling, we go right to the phones now and say good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Honorable.
Good evening to you. What you have for me tonight?
Beautiful things happen when you distance yourself from the negative. I repeat, beautiful things happen when you distance yourself from the negative. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much for that. Beautiful things happen when you distance yourself from the negative. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Ms. Sheriff.
Good evening, my dear.
Good evening, my Premier. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 17 and 18. Obey them that have the ruler over you, and submit yourself, for they watch for your soul, as they that must give an account, that they may do it with joy and not with grief, for that is unprofitable for you. Pray for us, for we trust we have a good conscience in all things, willing to live honestly. Sympathy is going out to Paula Griffin and family at Coal Hill, on the passing of her sister, Sandra Griffin. Sympathy is going out to Cynthia Dorr and the Merchant and the Liebert family on the passing of Kyra Dorr Merchant. Sympathy is going out to Oslin Thompson and her brother Sel and the family at Brown Pasture on the passing of their mother, Alberta Hanley Thompson. Sympathy is going out to the Simmons family at Beach Road on the passing of Calvin Simmons. Get well to my cousin in Canada and hi to my nephew. Remember, God still take care of you. Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We're truly grateful. Do we have any more calls that are holding? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the numbers again, the lines are now open. 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Let me, whilst I'm back on the mic, thank my lovely aunt in New York, Ornette, who put on really a wonderful spread for me there in the Bronx. And I was able to see some very, very good friends. I want to say hello to Doc Gishard and Spider and some of the guys, Malvern, and the whole gang that came there. My brother Jerry, if he's listening, my brother Trevor, they were all there. And of course, to my siblings as well, I was able to see my sister Helen and my nieces. I'm really happy that we had an opportunity to engage. It was late at night, I recognize that, and it was at the tail end of my trip, but it is really so wonderful to see good people and to interact with them. I also forgot at the top of the show, but I want to say good evening to Ursula there in Atlanta. Not Atlanta, but in Georgia. I always say Atlanta when I really mean the wider state of Georgia. I trust that you're well. I don't know if you're listening, but if you are, a special good evening to you. So we have been having, I believe, a fairly good time. We thank God thus far that we have been spared any damage from any storms. We're still in the thick of things. This is just October, and we know I think the season goes up until November, I believe. So, but September is normally the worst month, and we thank God that we're through September, and we're praying that we can be shielded from any of the effects, and we can move on. I got some very good news from the Four Seasons Resort that they're very excited. Their rooms, the renovations are going extremely well, and they're getting ready for the unveiling of the brand new lobby area, the brand new restaurant area. They're doing several new restaurants, brand new lobby, pools, rooms, you name it. It's going to be a brand new hotel basically, and they're doing it in phases. They did it in accordance with their commitment that they have not closed the hotel. We do recognize that some workers have had their hours cut. We're asking workers to be understanding in the circumstances. The alternative was to close the hotel altogether. And had it closed altogether, then instead of 2 and 3 days a week, you would have had no days at all. So as a government, when we negotiated with them, we asked them to keep the hotel open during the renovation stage. And so it's not the best situation, but it's the best situation that we could have managed in the circumstances. And we're asking for people to be understanding, realizing that this is their way of holding their workforce, because they're anticipating that from Thanksgiving, which I think is next month, November, and then rolling into what they call the festive season, that it will be chock-a-block. They said the bookings are through the roof, and for festive and into the first quarter of next year, it looks as if we're going to be having a very, very, very prosperous time down there. So we're asking workers to hold strain. We understand it's difficult, but to know that we're trying to do the best we can, working with the Four Seasons to ensure that our people are taken care of as well. So we continue, and I'm delighted that they have said the progress is really going well and it's on target for the reopening of those areas very, very soon. And so we look forward, I myself am looking forward to see what they've come up with. Let's go back to the phones and take some calls. It is 10 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, good evening, Mark. I have viewers and I can't answer. Otherwise?
We are good, thank you. How are you?
Good enough. Actually, the nurse aid them in the hospital changed to this one uniform with orange and stuff. And I want to know if this is the orange country with all the different, how this unity got in this thing here.
Well, I don't know. I don't know the uniform has anything to do with politics.
I understand, but I was in the Newton preschool color uniform, the Newton crepe.
That orange?
Yeah, orange and something.
Any of them are blue uniform?
No.
No blue? What about red?
No.
What about yellow? No?
No, they're a pink, but no, they're orange pink.
Orange, no. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How are you, though? You're well?
I'm not so well, before to help me, I went doctor.
Okay, well, I pray that you get better, okay?
Yeah, because it's cold.
All right, well.
I said, hi, hello. I am keeping you back. Have a blessed evening.
Okay, my dear. Thank you for calling as always. Thank you.
Oh, see you.
You know, this lady calls me from Sinkits. She's growing so famous that wherever I go now, I was in America, they asked me, how are your friend from Sinkits? You know, so it's really interesting because so many people listen to the show, and I'm thankful for that. Let's go back to the phones and take this next call. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Oh, good evening, Honorable Premier.
Good evening to you.
My radio. And how are you this evening?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm giving God thanks, you know. I have a lot to be thankful for.
Yes, we all do.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yesterday, you had the press conference, right?
Yes, I did.
Yes, I was busy, so I heard the end part. And I must commend you. You made a response in relation to people getting 1 and 2 days work. And I think your response was quite fitting. In that people, by now, they know that their job is seasonal. And just like, as you said, just like the older people, I mean, when the sugar industry was on, they practically worked 6 months in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew that they had hard times were coming. They had to plant the potato, save the penny, you know, use, what do you call it, partner hand, you know, different initiatives. Because why I appreciate it, because our people now have been put in a position, or they put themselves in a position where they feel they have to compete with their neighbors. And therefore you have the drive to credit excessively. Sometimes I say beyond their ability to repay. So that they enter into all of these different arrangements, and then when the slow season or the off season comes, then you hear this lot of bawling. And I think it's time enough for politicians to be honest. I admire your honesty, you know. Some people may say it's brazen, it's brash, but I am sure the people who listen, maybe at first they may not like to hear it, but at the end of the day, they have themselves to blame. And that's important, even in terms of your response to crime, you know, because these things need to be said. Oftentimes politicians are afraid to say, not realizing that they are depriving the people of the education they need, because people look to you for leadership.
Well, what do you, I mean, caller, if I can engage you for a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm happy you've raised this, because I confess that I'm getting some blows for it, huh?
Well, that's normal.
People are saying, I mean, frankly, even some of my closest advisors, that it's a sure way to lose if you tell people what they don't want to hear. But I have a concern, and as I said earlier in my opening, that we're only on the stage for a little time, and we must make the contribution that we can make and move on. And I would like it to be said of me that as Premier of Nevis, somebody entrusted with the awesome responsibility to lead this little island, that I must set a particular tone and not be afraid to tackle some of the issues that are important for us to tackle. And I find for too long, our people have been told you can be irresponsible.
And the government carry the load.
Either the government or your area rep or somebody else will carry the load.
Yeah.
But you can be irresponsible.
Be a politician, you know?
And the point that I'm making is there are people out there who genuinely need help. Don't get me wrong. But there's an element of our population, people who are working, people who have an income, and in many cases a reasonable enough income. But Flo just bring out the brand new iPhone. Mind, the phone you have works fine. But you want to ensure that when you go around and you take out your phone and whatever, you have the latest. So even though that new iPhone costs $4,000 and your pay might only be $3,000 or $3,500 a month, that's the phone that you want. And I find
to ask people, what income is this phone bringing in?
None. In fact, it costs you.
That's what I'm saying.
Because you have to top it up.
I told people, right, when I had my vehicle, I said, Henry, why you don't buy a new brand car? I said, darling, anytime you see I buy a car with plastic on it, it will have an either R or T. But it must be bringing in income.
Listen, my view is this, and it's a very simple view. If you can afford it, then all power to you.
Yeah, but you see...
But if you cannot afford it, you need to ensure... and listen, there are lessons that our parents and grandparents taught us that if we only remember them, we'll be okay now. They tell you cut your suit to fit your cloth. They tell you save for a rainy day. And I am amazed that somebody, for example, may get a bonus at Christmas. And they go out and they spend it all. And they don't recognize or accept that, listen, come February, March, April, I may run myself into a little jam. So let me try and save a little bit out of this. Because you know that as night follows day, we're going to face good and bad in life. And some people, because they're consuming all of their income, they can't even afford a little sickness to come. Because if they're out of work for 2 weeks and need a little surgery or something, they're facing bankruptcy and courts calling and TDC calling and hospitals calling. So I think the lesson...
You see, look, let me tell you something, right? You just take courage, because if you want to go down the hero list, all the statues, I went to see them, even I can't see it. I went to see the figures at the statues of the national heroes at the National Heroes Park.
Mm-hmm.
And from top to bottom, my aunt told me, she said, Mr. Bradshaw, when they were growing up, they used to be eating on the sidewall. When they get the food, they're going to sit on the sidewall.
Mm-hmm.
He said he would come to the village and tell them, no, get above the sidewall, go inside and eat. You understand? Different things he would tell them. So our people look to leaders for leadership. What has been happening is that every move that, every good move, because some moves are bad, that a person in leadership position make, they are positioned, whether political or not, or religious, look to tear it down and to undermine.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, nobody benefits. So even Dr. Simmons, when they talk about bonus, he used to say, when there is plenty, you will get plenty, and when there is none, there is none.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you got to be a bold person to tell them that.
But also, I would add...
You don't go and say, I told the financial secretary to find it. I mean, find it. If you're not there, you're not there.
Well, I also add to that when there's plenty, save something, because the Bible talk about it in Genesis, talk about Egypt. You had the years of plenty and then the years of famine.
Yeah, and famine coming.
Famine always comes.
It always comes, because the earth itself got to rest. So I admire you for that, Look, as you say, you do what you have to do, and you just leave the rest to God. Because the truth is, even some of your critics will think about it. They will ponder what you say. You may be changing people's lives. Always look at it that way. You can't take on who say otherwise. That is for them. But you have a job to lead your people. Because I made a point weekend and some of them were, oh, Miss Henry. Because I said that I was disappointed in most of the graduates from UWI who do not demonstrate leadership. I was talking in reference to the CCJ.
Mm-hmm.
But we lack leaders. People don't like to hear it. We lack leaders. You got people put on their light, run it up, and then walk, oh, Mr. Brantley, I want you to pay my light bill, excuse me. So you keep it up because you are helping people. The same people you hear complaining, you think when Joseph said bring 20% of your crop, they came smiling? Do you think so?
No, of course.
But Joseph want to eat our people things.
Mm-hmm.
And what famine? He only says it because he ain't from here, and he just want to wrap them to eat it up. That is forcing her.
Mm-hmm.
He said go into the field and make them bring it. So leaders must lead. And they must set an example by their own lifestyle too. So when they look at you, they say, well, he's saying so, but he's doing so too. So I call to encourage you, because I listen to you periodically when I have the time. And I appreciate it. You are doing your people a favor. It is time enough in this country and federation, our people be made to face facts. Face facts. I was telling somebody, my daughter lives in Barbados. When they had this election, I told them, I said, Flinders Stewart, it's one option Barbados have. I said, you're going to the IMF. Oh, Miss Henry. Miss Henry is an economist. I don't work through all of them story there. But you got certain variables out of order. One way to bring it, it will either crash on you or you have to do something about it. Mm-hmm. But people still want this. They want this. The mind of the country in trouble, you know. Just like how you may be having some difficulty, right? You them, oh, nothing doing in the Ibis. So what you supposed to do? And another thing while I here, so when I go and they could take a good door for me. If there is work in St. Kitts, every division have a right to be employed. They know that many of them live in the Virgin Islands. You see the boat running from St. John to St. Thomas every day. People going back and forth working. So I don't know what is this big thing. Nothing doing in Nevis, and Nevis is a colony of things. That is the dumbest thing and said by people who are intelligent. If nothing is going on over here, they have every right. It's one federation.
But you know, I would only add to that when the Four Seasons Resort opened, there were so many Kittitians who worked in Nevis.
I know because I used to work on the thing, so I know. And
to this day, there are people from St. Kitts who work in Nevis. It is one country, and so I have often said I don't see the difficulty.
These ideas have got to be put front and center. So when you say, oh, nothing going on in Nevis, how do you mean nothing going on in Nevis? If division's working over here, they're consuming over there. We have got to educate our people.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your contribution. This mantra about nothing going on in Nevis, I don't know if they're still continuing with that, because when we look at the landscape in Nevis, we see so much going on. And really and truly, I don't know why anybody would have set out on that particular path, because if it's raining outside, you can't keep telling people that it's snowing or it's dry, because people can see that it's raining. And that's the difficulty. You need a story, you need a pitch to people that people can recognize and appreciate and understand. And when that doesn't happen, people obviously know that you're telling them nonsense, and that's the difficulty. Let's go back to the phones and take some calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good night to the Honorable Mark.
Yes, good evening.
The Honorable Premier Mark Brantley, good night. Yeah, Mark, we got a lot of sad people in this federation now, trying the ever best to pull down the unity government, and you are trying your endeavor best to do what you all got to do to the people of this federation. And it could not come at a better time, Brother Mark, because we know that where we went through under the former administration, we didn't vote a confidence for over 2 years, and we went on the street and we protest and we do all kind of things. No violence, we ain't sure nothing. And you know, they out there bringing up all kind of things, about how hard things it be. The young people them treated bad and all kind of things. And the young people should rise up. And the young people should stand up because this happening and that happening and wherever. But Mark, I want to just tell them that this is not a 93. This is 2018. And this country going forward. And people more civilized and more educated and everything. We ain't going down that road. They're trying everything to sabotage this move, every move this government make. Can't you see me still with Henry? It is fair to say. Sabotage this every move and every good thing this government do. They find all kind of things and all kind of things to say about what the government is doing. But you all are doing a wonderful job. Mm-hmm. And it could have never come at a better time, Mark, to bring this country back together with what was going on. especially with our SIDF fund. Look at the house in the Hurricane Fund, doing those roofs for people who was there suffering for years under a labor administration for 20 years. People there suffering with their house roof, got in water in the chest. You got in a bucket or something in the chest just when the rain come in. And you are trying so hard to fix those roofs. Brother Mark, it could not be a better time. And we want to thank this unity government with the leadership of Dr. Harris, who is a real economist. And he know how to spend the country money, and he know what to do. And I know that when in this election call again, I know Dr. Harris will be the Prime Minister, so we hit to term, and after that, this unity will continue, Mark. Because this is what we want in the country, togetherness. We don't want to divide it. And the opposition is trying the endeavor best to talk about crime. They was there when crime was going on. They was there when crime was going on. And they could not get it solved. So both come together and come with the government and say, well listen, we as the opposition come and walk out wherever we got to walk out. Because the country is us, when our tourism industry affected, everything affected, Mark. Brother Mark, you have a wonderful night, brother. God bless.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed. No more calls at the moment. Yes, we go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you. Could you turn on the radio, please?
Yes. I think that's done. I think interesting discussion that you had between both your callers there. I think, though, that what was missing or what was not taken into account, two things mainly. The fact that expectations now are much higher. And yes, we should lecture some people because they don't do the right thing. But the fact is, we can't expect the same expectations as once ago. And
you're losing me, caller. When you say you can't expect the same expectation, if you have a 20-inch television in your house and it's showing just fine, but your neighbor buy a 40-inch, so you decide you want a 40-inch too. So you go and you put yourself in debt to take.
You assume though that you're buying the 40-inch because your neighbor have one.
Well, whatever the reason.
The fact is, you have choices, eh?
But this is my point. So don't tell me about expectations. We all have expectations. If you are go out in the street and ask anybody down in Newtown, would you like $1 million? They will tell you, of course, that's my expectation. Okay. But we have to be able to talk to our people in a way that they understand that if you have an ambition to have something, you want a car, you want a home, there is a process. You work towards it, you save your money, you do what you need to do.
Absolutely.
I'm saying that is not happening because our people are being encouraged to be profligate, to go out and just spend whatever they have, and then when the inevitable bad times come, and you and I know that once you're on this planet Earth, you're going to have good times and bad times. When the bad times come, where there's sickness in the family, I was talking to a young man in Sinkers just recently, and he told me that he is always very careful, put away a little money, not being paid a lot, but whatever little he pinched and he put away something. And he said his mom had an illness, and it was $100,000 he had to find.
Yeah, well, right? I understand.
So we have to.
What I'm saying.
We have to prepare our people.
I agree. We should encourage fragility, right? But I'm saying also that you have to deal with expectations as well. However you choose to do it, fine, okay? But the fact is, it's there. You can't discount it. And the second thing is, when there's plenty, you have to be careful about income redistribution, okay? There appears to be too much disparity, and that's a cause for instability, okay? But what I really wanted to say, though, and this question is not intended to be frivolous in any way. I really want to be guided and informed. What is the prime purpose of the House of Assembly, whether it's at the NIA level or at the federal level? Is it primarily to debate and pass laws, or is it to give the government an opportunity to campaign under the guise of statement by ministers. Okay, I mean, the first seems a perfectly legitimate activity, at the end of which we hope that things will be done in an inclusive and consultative way, you know, everything debated in Parliament, and end up with good laws, good bills that move our country forward. Okay, but recently it seems that the latter seems to be the case, right? It's just an abuse of parliamentary privilege or opportunity by the government side to engage in politicking without having much of a challenge from the opposition. I mean, certainly when I listen to the Federal Assembly, at least, I get that impression, right?
Well, I noticed you used the word recently, which tells me that you are asking a frivolous question, because I have been in the Parliament for many, many years, and there's nothing recent about it.
You have those long statements by ministers?
Of course,
yeah?
Of course.
Okay.
You have statements by ministers that are
maybe
designed.
I'm paying more attention now.
Well, perhaps you are. Statements by ministers are designed for ministers to make a statement on anything that is of importance in their ministry or otherwise. So, for example, when Minister Grant got up and said that this Sun Country Airlines was now coming to the Federation, that is something that's an announcement that is being made. If there's a development, when the Prime Minister and the Cabinet agree that the RSS will be brought in, these are all things that we would make. So
yeah, but they also go beyond that. You get comparisons between now and the past.
But caller,
isn't that political?
Caller, if it is that you're, for example, making a statement on crime, and you say statistically this is what the position is. If you're making a statement on governance, if I get up in the Parliament here in Nevis tomorrow, and I say for the first time in our history, the opposition now has a fully furnished, fully functional office paid for by the government.
Good, that's good.
Well, it is a comparison because we never had it before.
Yeah, okay,
right?
That's good.
So I don't see that, there's anything. I think people express themselves differently. You have to appreciate that those in Parliament are politicians. And if there is something that they're doing good, they're going to make a statement about it.
Well, that's the whole point.
Equally, on the other side, they're very adept at coming at you to tell you that whatever decision or whatever policy you have enunciated is wrong, and they tell you all that's wrong with it.
They don't have equal time or equal opportunity to do that.
Well, they don't have a statement by minister because they're not a minister.
Right.
When we sat over where they now sit, we didn't have that privilege either.
By the opposition?
They have that. They have questions that they could use, and, of course, in the debate of most bills, they are allowed to bring in matters that are germane and relevant. So the truth of the matter is I think it's much ado about nothing.
Okay.
And I think that having been there since 2007,
you think it's just fine?
I don't see the problem.
Okay. One more thing. I haven't had time to review the UN addresses, but I remember you making a statement, I think I heard it on the news, that we are friends of all and enemies of none. I don't know how that will play with the new Trump doctrine of principled realism and replacing globalism with patriotism and nationalism. But I just wondered if you had a view on it, and because I'm sure that you played it pretty safe and innocuous as usual, and didn't make any waves. But I still wish we would have some kind of rationalizing of our foreign policy in the region. All right. That's all.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much for your contribution as always. Just so you know that the policy is not a new policy. It is really my indication using that language of the expansion of St. Kitts and Nevis' diplomatic footprint, that we are saying to the world that we are friends of all and foes of none. We are not out there looking to war with nations or looking to get into disagreements. We are looking to build relationships, to strengthen those that we already have and to seek new ones. And so that is why we have added 29 countries in the past 3.5 years in terms of diplomatic relations. That is why 15 new countries have decided to grant our citizens the privilege of coming to their shores without the need for a visa. That is what we are talking about, building relationships, being friends with everyone. Doesn't mean that we are somehow satellites of anybody. It simply means that we are ordering our affairs in such a way that we are friendly, a friendly nation. We are not seeking conflict or war or confusion with anyone. And I think that is a policy that we can all get around and get behind. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, good night again, Mark.
Yes, good evening to you.
Yeah, Mark, I just want to thank God for reaching me a next milestone in my life. In my 50s, I'm doing well, and I'm going good. And I just like our going good, I want this country to go good. Now, Mark, there's a lot of questions asked you just now about Parliament. Mark, let me tell you something. Well, you never asked him that on the next side when you all was in there. And they were saying all kind of thing, the same thing too. They was doing the same thing too. That ain't that it must happen. They were saying the same thing. They was going to praising up. ZIZ just like at their own. You know, advertising, putting all kind of things on ZIZ, campaigning on ZIZ and all those things. So I don't see that if you all do good as ministers, you all in Parliament now, that is it where you are supposed to go and stay where you all do. You all are government ministers. You got to tell the people in the country where you all do. So I don't see where this negative man coming with all the time and trying to distract people from the right things going on in the country. I want to tell that gentleman, you know, we had emotional confidence for 2 years, you know, and something, you know. 2 years, going over 2 years. We got to go to the Privy Council to get justice. We could not solve it here. And we not solve it by battle and stone. We solve it by the law. And I want to tell the gentleman when these things was happening, if he was around, if he wasn't thinking. And we got to come to reality, man. We got to wake up in this country and stop listening to ignorance. That's why, you know, the Honorable Prime Minister playing, turn off your radio when you hear some of them with the ignorance. Because the ignorance only leading to a lot of things and just trying to distract you from the right things were happening in the country. And we cannot afford that. We cannot afford our young people misleaded. Our young people got to get to it. This ain't like the 60s and the 70s when people didn't know it better. And they don't, you know, Mr. Thatcher and Labour and all those things. You know? These are brilliant man coming. You went to university. You all went to university. You all are lawyer, doctors and all kind of thing now. You all know what you're doing. You all come from down to earth. You all ain't come from the mother this and the mother that and come from the big mansion thing. All of you who in government right now is down to earth. You all come from poor, humbling parents. Mark, you have a wonderful night again. God bless.
Okay, well, thank you for that and congratulations on your milestone. But I think you raised an excellent point about emotional confidence. And my friend who calls in, I keep telling him that we really should meet because I feel I know him because he calls every week and we have a conversation. And I like the conversation. I've said to some who have challenged me that he takes up too much time to say, no, it's an opportunity to exchange views. That is why we're here. But one of the things that has concerned me is really the selective amnesia that people seem not to recall. And that stain on our democracy, which was those 2 years that we had that motion of confidence in abeyance. That stain, we must never forget it. We must never forget it. So now people are concerned that a minister is well within the rules to make a statement. There are no time limits for statements by ministers. So he gets up, he makes a statement, he says, so and so is happening. Oh, you're being political. But the people that they support had a motion of no confidence for 2 years. Never brought it forward. And you don't hear them talking about that. So they criticize what is allowed by the rules, but they are prepared to support that which is unlawful and illegal and improper. And so that is the duality that you sometimes have in our country, where people can't call right and wrong because of who's doing it. And my view is that we're better off if we say, listen, I support CCM, but what Mark Brantley is doing I don't agree with. You know why? It could actually help me. It could help me. That is why I'm always prepared to listen to all views. Because when you're in a leadership position, you must not close your ears to different views. Sometimes the man out there has a better view than you. And by listening, you get a perspective that you had not thought of. And these are some of the things we all can learn from each other. All of us can learn from each other. And we must listen to each other and talk to each other in order to move the country forward. very important that we do so. Let's go back to the phones. We have 20 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. Let's take this call. Good evening, you're on the mark. Okay, we've lost both callers. Please call back. Callers 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Just to remind one and all that Dr. Packer, right here in Florida, is having his big barbecue competition on October 13th. He said the defending team is camouflage, and they are all kind of team, white team, blue team, all kind of teams. So they come in for the title. So we'll see what happens, but Dr. Packer is inviting one and all to come. He says it's going to be the biggest event since President Obama's first inauguration. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hi, Mark. Good night.
Good night to you.
But Mark, it's one thing I want to call your program for tonight, but Mr. Henry hit the nail on the head. Because I was very disturbed from yesterday when the gentleman wants you to go find work for the people who are laid off from 4 seasons.
They have been laid off, you know. The hours have been reduced.
One day and 2 days, so he wants you to fulfill the hours then. But you couldn't say it no better, according to Mr. Henry. You couldn't say it no better, Mark. Like you want the government to find work for everybody. And then you tell him about school children and manager, board manager swearing after local manager. So you're going to have to get some more work to go do because you have to go down and tell them stop the office people and find job for the school children then.
Well, you know,
I don't know, come on, white people want government to find work for everybody.
But you see,
they can't go there and find employment for themselves.
But it's part of the culture that has developed. You know, I mean, a man would work and spend all, go downtown and spend all the money, right? Get paid, he spend the money Friday and Saturday line. And then Monday morning, he said, well, you know, you forget you got this electricity bill or this water bill or child support or whatever the case may be. And there's a feeling that other people must be responsible for you. And I'm saying that whilst there are people who genuinely need assistance, those out there who are gainfully employed and the like must be responsible. That's the word I keep using.
Exactly.
That people must be responsible. But you see,
exactly. You're so correct.
Right, people have led this kind of idea that the government is there. So if I need something, you know, I need my house fixed, I need something happen, or whatever it is, the government, right? And in my yard clean down, call the government, let them do it.
Yeah.
Whatever, yeah. Right? And that is the thing. And I am simply saying to our people that, as you say, the government cannot employ everyone, the government cannot do everything.
No.
And our people must be responsible. You have a fella, you know, had called me a day and tell me he wants some help from him. I said, what help you want? He wants some help to pay his credit card. I said, you want help to pay your credit card? He said, yeah. Right? I said, partner, I'm not in that. I saw him in town later the afternoon. He tell me, anyway, you say you know help me. I went on the bank and take off some money out of my account and paid my credit card. I tell him that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's right there for.
That's what you're supposed to do. If you run up your credit card and you got money in the bank, well, what you call me for? And to this day, that partner don't speak to me. Right? And that happened a couple of years ago. He doesn't speak to me to this day. Because as far as he was concerned, it was my responsibility to pay his credit card. And that is sometimes what happens, and you sometimes have to say to people, listen, that is not how life works. That is not how life works. So, you know, it's a difficult message. I think a lot of people may feel a little offended by it, but these things must be said. And Ms. Henry is right, because when we are entrusted with leadership roles, we must lead. Even if it's unpopular, we must lead, because I am saying if people are willing to listen to what I'm saying, and when the rain is falling, you take out your bucket and you catch water. So that when the pipe dry, you have water put down there.
Water there to turn to.
Right? That will make life a lot easier for a lot of us. Right? So that's what we need to do. And that's what our granny used to do. I tell you, sometimes things so hard when I growing up down Henley Park, as we used to call it, down a place named Scarborough. Right? And you go there and old auntie these take off, what they call it, they used to have a head tie. Head tie, you used to got a little piece and you got some little thing in there, 10 cents, 5 cents, 25 cents, whatever it may be. Right? Yeah. Tell you go along up over in Thompson shop, go buy this or buy that. I mean, the sense that when they got something, they put some little thing away. And our people have somehow lost that, particularly our young people, and we must talk to them about it.
Well, to spend half what they have and then depend on somebody else.
So
whack off what they have, nothing spend off, but whack it off, don't care, and then want somebody else to help them.
Well, we must talk about these things, you
know? I don't know who the gentleman is. He sounds like a bright fella. They say they don't call stupid question, but I find that was a stupid, well, I don't even know what to call it. Statement for him to make them. Let me call it statement. About people getting 1 and 2 days. So what are you supposed to do? Go down there, tell forces and give them back 5 days? When they had the 5 days and 6 days, how come when they're making the overtime, they ain't balling out? Because our Scott now, he representing, he balling out to them. He's something like a regular caller down here, because people are always complaining to him, and he's a politician, so I understand why they leave in the politician and complaining to him. According to him, he said the school children them and all, who left school saying they can't get no.
Yeah, well, I mean, we understand that some fellas say what they need to say, or they say what they feel to say, right? But again, our job is to do the best we can and do the right thing, okay?
Now, it's a long time I called the program, but that thing was in me since yesterday, and I decided to call him tonight. But like I said, Mr. You trust me. Anyway, thanks for the time.
All right, my brother. Thanks a million. Okay, we have about, 35 minutes or so left. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Hey, Mark.
Yes, hello?
Good night, Mark.
Yeah, you have on a radio or something, you get an echo.
Okay. Look here. Mark. Mark.
We're listening to you. Go ahead.
I want to say happy Teachers Month to Teacher Shirley, my favorite teacher. Teacher Shirley, Miss Brown. Okay, I want to say good night. And who God bless, no man cause. Lord is my life and my salvation. And God give you the Son to die for us. So, thank you, Mark.
All right. Thanks a lot, brother. I'm sure she heard you and she would appreciate that. Teacher Shirley, a wonderful teacher, given a life of service. And you're wishing, how you say, it was your favorite teacher. Happy Teachers Month. The teachers are having a month. The seniors are having a month of activities. The postal workers are having a week of activities. So there's a lot that's happening. The numbers again to call 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. If you're just tuning in and listening to On the Mark, I'm your host, Mark Brantley. Straight talk across the Narrows. And you're tuned into VON Radio, the voice of Nevis, the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse. 860 on your AM dial or www.vonradio.com. And I'm told now we're gone fancy. We're streaming online, so you could see my face if you want to see me. We on TV, we are on Facebook Live. That's how people are doing things now. So many people are getting information on these little gadgets. So that's where we are on Facebook Live. So they have a number of ways that you can enjoy this show, and we thank you for participating. The lines are open if you want to call and share your views in relation to anything that has been said. But tonight we've been talking about people taking responsibility for their health, taking responsibility for their finances, taking responsibility for their children, taking responsibility for their community. Just a few days ago, we had a situation where it was discovered that some landowners were dumping garbage on their land. And I want to thank Deputy Premier Jeffers. I want to thank Minister Brandy Williams, our Minister of Health. I want to thank Andrew Hendrickson and the team there at Solid Waste. I want to thank the team at Environmental Health, because all of them came together to ensure that that was cleaned up. That is about responsibility. If we take responsibility, we wouldn't litter our communities. We take responsibility, we wouldn't allow our lands to become overgrown, our family property to become derelict. We wouldn't dump our cars all over the island, dump our fridges and stove and microwave in the guts if we are responsible. Responsibility is something that we need to preach across the board. Don't spend off your money weekend in the rum shop and then Monday morning you can't pay your electricity bill. Do not spend off your money before you take care that your children have food in the house to eat and the necessary things that they need to go to school. When you're making a lot of money because you're getting a lot of work, you're getting a lot of jobs, you're getting a lot of tips, save something. Because as sure as the sun will rise, there will be a day when you're not getting the same amount. So let us understand that and try and work with each other and help each other, but also talk to each other. When you see your neighbor doing something and they're doing it the wrong way, talk to them. In our environment now, people feel if somebody tell me something, oh, my best response is to cuss them. And some may do that, but others may appreciate it. And I'm going to tell you the truth in my position as the Premier of Nevis. I'm going to speak. I'm going to speak candidly because since I entered politics, that's what I've always done. Speak candidly. You may not always agree with me, and I may not always be right. But I'm going to continue to say to our people, take responsibility. Be responsible people. Be responsible citizens. We discovered that some 800 plus homes on the island were not registered on the property tax roll, so they're not paying any tax. So we have to now hire people to go out to find these homes. When we're saying to you, simple, go into Inland Revenue. I built my little house on the prairie, and I want to make sure that it's recorded so I could pay my little tax. Because that little tax, when you need your road to go to your house on the prairie, is that little tax the government need to use. When you need electricity and water to come to your little house on the prairie, is that little house tax and little other taxes that the government puts together to make that possible for you. So be responsible. Be responsible. Don't let the government have to run you up and down because you owe tax and you won't pay. And you have some of them here on the island walking around with their chest puffed up and owe the government tax and would not pay. And I'm saying it is high time that people be responsible. Be responsible and allow the country and the community to move forward. But if you decide you're going to be irresponsible and you take irresponsible decisions, I said it on somewhere publicly before, and I get some cost for it, but I don't care. That a man come to me, ask me to assist him with a little problem he had with child support. And I'm always sensitive to that because I'm very sensitive to children. And so I decide, yes, I will assist, but in that process I try to talk to him because I'm thinking, well, is he working? What's happening? In the little conversation, turn up, the man got 6 picnic from 6 different women. 6 children. 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From 6 different women. And can't afford to support none. So I tell the man that the hospital and the clinic and thing have certain free devices that he could go and get for free. That will allow him to have his pleasure without the consequence of having babies. He said, you know me, I'm insulting him. I'm insulting him because he must continue with his irresponsible behavior and then come to me and others to pay the child support for him. So I then said to him, I said, you know, I have 2 children. I stopped at 2 because I thought that 2 was the best number that will allow me to try and provide the best life that I could for them. You have 6 from 6 different women, and the way you sound is like you want to continue. So, at what point do you say to that young man that you're being irresponsible? Should I, as a politician, simply tell him, man, yeah, Lord, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, whenever you need something, just come, I'm going to sort you out. I'm going to try and find something for you. Or do you tell him what he needs to hear? Right? Keep your pants up, keep your belt buckled, keep your zipper up. Because clearly you're out there and you're being irresponsible. No, you're insulting him. That is the reality. So at what point, and what should we do? Your views would be interesting. We have about 30 minutes left. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, Mr. Glancy.
Good evening to you.
Hello, I'm glad to get in. Let me tell you, when some callers call in and make certain comments, right? As an educated man like yourself, you should correct them. Because the callers call in and talk totally I can't handle. For example, one supposed to have his own media calling program, and then the other one speak about the 60s and the 70s. The 60s and the 70s, with the era in time, you think it was developed to such a maximum sensitivity as a matter of fact.
Caller, could you raise your voice a bit? We're not hearing you that clearly for some reason. Yes.
Some callers, when they call it, an educated man like yourself, you should correct them. You know the history of St. David. I have a book here written by Nivy John, From Commoner to King. And it goes back from about the 30s up to a certain era in time. Here, if you're going to come down on the farmer, labor administration, I will agree with them, but not the labor administration from the system. Because what we were taking out of, for example, the airport of incentive. CASTO. Free secondary education, I benefited from that. So I cannot see how certain set of people, the acquisition of our sugar land, I cannot see. I'm not saying Russia didn't do nothing wrong, but he did it. Because two things he did I just can't understand. So example, when he had the state of emergency down West Farm, around Simmons and other people land that was under agriculture at the point in time, and the thinking of Crispino, who got money from that, but yet still he did a lot of great things. Then I had the next caller before him. He's supposed to have his own radio program calling, so that he could have the maximum time that he's looking for. Because some people is not really adapt to. They just, if you understand what I'm speaking of, you have to be up to the time. You make a comment about you're looking friends, not enemies, when you went to the UN. What's wrong with that? So in this point in time, when there's so much killing going on both sides, you can need foe and enemy. Now tell me, who was friend you have the less young to look over your back? Because your friend going to be looking at your back. So these things they can't understand. We have to grasp that. For example, what's going on right now, you sit in not parliament, where they have when the ministers of government meet, so they call it.
Cabinet?
Cabinet. This is our sugar land presently now. So you be a part of it?
Am I a part of cabinet?
Yeah, when they have the cabinet meeting. Because I don't think that the Prime Minister himself should make the decision in the sales of the sugar land. I want to believe if all the ministers could be up in the meeting. If here something is wrong. If all of you are not be in that meeting, something still wrong because those lands are being sold without the consent of the owners. Because the people of St. are the owners of the sugar land.
Yeah, but caller, but let's be realistic. You say the people of St. Kitts, I agree with you, but the people are represented by the government.
Yeah, but we elect, not the government. Well, we are the government, you are like the
caller, so let me understand you. So if the government going to sell a piece of land, or the government going to build a road, or the government going to make a decision, the government must come to the people to ask the people if it's okay? But nothing will ever get done?
Of course, because, for example, why should we elect 11 individuals, right?
Yes.
If they're going to take the land to do any kind of development, we're supposed to have some kind of say in it. Because it's ours.
But caller, I'm saying that what you're proposing, while it sounds good, it's impractical. The reason why you elect people is for those people to make decisions. They may make good decisions, they may make bad decisions. That's why they come back to you every 5 years and you decide whether you're going to continue with them or you're going to remove them. Right? But if every decision that the government is going to make, their development is going to come or whatever, they must come and ask you in a referendum whether they should go or not. But nothing will get done. Yeah, but in a town hall meeting. So I'm going to say to you, caller, that I was in the hospital when the town hall happened, and I am a voter too.
Yeah, but so, saying, right? Major, you taking up major portion of the sugar land. It's supposed to be.
But as I understand it, and I might be wrong, but as I understand it, any lands that would have been negotiated for purposes of development under this government were lands that were already bartered away in the land for debt swap. And it is the land sales unit that is dealing with the sales of those lands. Those lands were actually bartered in exchange for the debt reduction, with the understanding that those lands will be sold, and when they're sold, the monies will be used to pay down the debt.
Okay, right? When the last election, one of the major topics that was discussed was people was not in favor of it.
Well, I agree with you, but I'm saying...
if you are then going to be voted against that, because I voted Team Unity.
Caller, I agree with you.
So what is now taking place?
But I agree with you, but I'm simply...
Come back to us now. Come back to us now.
Well, all right. You say come back, I don't agree with you, because I think that is impractical, but and I don't know you go back to people on every issue.
My parents voted for Bracket to acquire those sugar lands back in 1975.
Yes.
So then it's also parents kids voted for that. So we did know it is wrong to come back to that.
So what are the decisions that you would require the government to come back to you on?
Because it's award.
Let me ask you. You say major decision. What would be some of those major decisions in your view?
For example,
yes.
a Chinese get almost 20 acres of our sugar land. A Chinese, and we start the building is now being taken place. It's all Chinese man down there working. No petition at all.
So what you're saying a Chinese, you don't prefer it was American?
I prefer petition.
Well, okay, but when you're saying Chinese, like something wrong with Chinese?
No, this is the foreigner.
So you have something against foreigners?
I'll tell you something, in early 60s, you chase the Chinese out of sentence already, you used to call them Ting Tang Chinese dogs,
But that doesn't make it right because you did something in the 60s.
So now they're coming back and now, look at what's taking place now. We become third-class citizens in our own country.
Carla, I don't know. You're saying some things that sound good, but they're not factual. You can't tell me that listen, you can't tell me with any conviction that Kiddisons and Nevis are becoming any third-class citizens. Right? Look around St. Kitts and Nevis. Look at the housing. Look at the infrastructure. Look at the jobs that people are holding. Right? Yes, tell me the next point that you have there.
The Caribbean countries that have unemployment, we inherit it because those citizens, when we the citizens of this country, amongst this federation, working here all the days of our life, paying our taxes, and then we using our tax-paying dollars to create projects, and then foreigners coming and getting the job that we tax-paying dollar create. That is how we become third-class citizens in our own country.
Kola, let me ask you something. Can I ask you something?
Of course.
You're from St. Kitts Nevis?
I'm from the Federation.
Okay. You have any family abroad? Huh?
Of course.
And you think that your family abroad are foreigners and therefore should not have any opportunity where they live?
Listen to what I'm saying.
I asked you a question.
Yes, but not under maximum, the vast amount of foreign land that they cannot acquire those vast amount of land in the country that they now exist.
But what is the vast amount of land that you're talking
20
about?
20 acres.
20 acres of land?
Then they got 8 lands down by the valley. Almost too much acres are going up by some people got 6 cents.
Yes.
I got 7. I got 6 cents and I got common sense.
So let me tell you, 6 Senses is a brand. So
yeah,
you have 6 Senses hotel that's coming, which is a high-end hotel.
But then the locals, we are underdeveloped. We are underdeveloped. But self-employment wise, we are underdeveloped.
The Park Hyatt was built. It employs about, I think, 400 people. You think that was a good idea or a bad idea?
I would like to sit down and debate with you,
No, but I'm asking you a question. The Park Hyatt was built employs about 400 people. You agree with that project or not?
Listen to me. I will never contest those lands at the Southeast Peninsula because those lands was never in the hands of the local citizens. Those lands were in private hands. So I will never contest those lands.
Okay, so whatever happens with private...
So they more Wrigley and those Smith and those kind of people.
Yeah, but a lot of them are local people anyway. So you're saying that it's okay, they could do whatever they want with those lands, but
Smith and Wrigley them was not local. They were foreign.
Call I can't win with you because you keep changing the goalpost. So you said foreign extract, well, me and you foreign extract too.
Let me take when I use the word extract. I'm going to say foreign extract here.
Come, me and you from foreign extract? Or fathers come from Africa?
You was brought here.
Well, but regardless of whether you were brought here, you were sent here, you're foreign extract too?
And them came after own choice. But we were forced down here. We had no choice.
Okay, caller. All right, we'll leave it there. We'll debate another time, okay? All right, let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Yeah. Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
Just bear with me 1 minute because you might find my response to your question a bit provocative. The delay in holding the motion of no confidence was most unfortunate and should not have happened, okay? But it did not occur in a vacuum. Before the rights of parliamentarians, we had universal adult suffrage, one man, one vote. And anything that dilutes that right is like skewed boundaries, for instance, is an affront to democracy.
The law is for everyone, opposition and government included. Both sides abuse the law, right? The then government abused it by using it to prolong itself in office. And the then opposition, they abused it by preventing much-needed boundary changes. And I find it amazing that if this was so egregious, a simple amendment could have been made to rectify this. Okay? I think a lot of our problems are a result of bad laws and bad constitutional arrangements, right? And you could bet your life that, bearing in mind what happened over the 2-year period, that both opposition and government would have been forced to support an amendment like that. And that would put an end to this. Because any future government, even though they know they would lose it, even though they know it's wrong, could use it as a delay tactic. And I don't know if you heard the Mr. Brown, QC's presentation to the opening of the new law year, but I am wondering if that is not what he had in mind when he talked about the constitutional arrangements between St. and Nevis, for instance, making sure that we have good laws, good arrangements, so that things like this wouldn't happen in the future. So it did not happen in a vacuum, right? You asked the question.
Caller, yeah. I hear you, but listen.
Yeah.
Sometimes the more you wiggle, when you're in quicksand, the deeper you go. Right?
I was in quicksand?
Well, you're in deep quicksand. You should not have called back in. Because the reality is that all of these arguments were deployed and all of them failed before the court. You know why? This notion that somehow the law was unclear. There was no lack of clarity. A motion of no confidence, it is clear.
No. But I started at the beginning by saying that it was wrong.
But you're bringing argument about both sides. I don't understand where the both sides come in.
Because you can abuse the legal system with bad intentions.
But I don't know where the both sides come in. You must speak if you want to speak, and speak truthfully and factually. Then you must speak in a way that we understand that there's no moral equivalency. That you're sounding like Donald Trump. You sound like Donald Trump when the neo-Nazis and the KKK confront. He said there are good people on both sides. There can't be no good people on both sides.
So you don't
the emotion and no confidence is staying on this history of this country.
Yes.
And we must accept it.
And so is using abusing the legal system to frustrate boundary changes.
But what do you mean using the legal system to frustrate?
And that's what I'm saying.
You don't hear what the Privy Council had to say? Huh? A man who say email address to labordog.com, where he said, I mean, it was embarrassing. It wasn't anybody abusing the system.
By the way, the law says that they agree that the boundaries need a changing too.
But the fact that the boundary need changes, right? Caller.
You can't have it both.
Caller. No. Don't come with that. Don't come with that. I've spent enough time behind the courthouse door to understand that them argument, they're weak. You understand?
Yeah.
The reality is that you cannot say because there's a need for boundary change that you must gerrymander boundaries. Right? What happened was a disgrace. What happened was Denzel Llewellyn Douglas, seeing that the ship was sinking, trying to perpetuate himself in power on the people of the country, decided to go in Parliament on a Friday afternoon with no notice. I happened to be on a boat as a parliamentarian. I happened to be on a boat from St. Thomas to Tortola. My phone started to ring and people telling me, oh, where you, this is what happening. Friday afternoon. Try to ambush.
We know the history, but the judge said there was no gerrymandering.
Man, listen. You are ignoring the elephant and focusing on the little mouse that is running around. I am saying before you can condemn anybody for anything, you must pick the mote out of the labor's eye. And you have not done that. You're unwilling to that. Telling me that, oh, well, bad things are happening on both sides. No. You're trying to create a moral equivalency that doesn't exist. Because Unity has never had a motion of no confidence for 2 years and not called it. And Unity has never sought to change boundaries in the dead of night and call emergency meeting at 6 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. When people down 4th Street drinking rum, they're talking about they have an emergency to change boundaries. You must condemn that unreservedly. Then you can go on to talk about other things. But don't come and tell both sides doing things.
no devils and angels here. That was my point.
Man, okay. That your earlier call, I think, was a better call. This is not your finest. This is not your finest moment.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot. You know, but we must get away from this thing, you know, because we support. We cannot condemn. I condemn it. It was wrong. Nobody say, well, yeah, it was wrong, you know, but you were wrong when you do so and so too. No. Condemn that. That's what we're talking about. And it is wrong that it happened. It is wrong in the way that it happened. And the court said it was wrong. You can't say that we use the court system in some improper way when we won. We won. We went to the court and we triumphed in the Privy Council. And the law lords said what they had to say because what was done was wrong. It was morally and legally wrong. And let us not try to equivocate or try to create any equivalency. Don't say, oh, but you know, you don't do things wrong too. That's like saying a man shoot and kill somebody. Well, yeah, that's bad, you know, but remember, that person been thief from somebody down the road too. No. Condemn that. It's wrong to have killed somebody. That is what we're discussing. Emotional confidence, 2 years. And not one martyr, as the old people say, could justify that. The boundaries was a clear effort to prop up an unpopular leader and an unpopular party. Clear effort. No ifs, ands, buts, or maybes. No two ways about it. Only one way about it. So we must accept these things. And if we're going to be commentators and be taken seriously, we can't come and start to say, well, oh, everybody is a devil and everybody is an angel. No, you're sounding like Trump. When the KKK on one side and black people on the other, Trump say, oh, good people in both camps. No. You must be able to condemn, and that is the way you get credibility. Let's go to the phones. We have about 12 minutes left. Good evening, you're on the mark. We've lost that caller. Let's try this one.
Let us not try to equivocate or try.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the line. You need to get rid of that sound in the back and listen to me, not to the computer.
Shoot and kill somebody.
Hello?
Well, yeah, that's bad enough.
Okay. Hello?
Okay, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Also here, sorry about that, Mark. Yeah. I'm so sorry that we really don't really have a lot more time because I, you know, just continue to be very, very disappointed in this last caller. You've got to be really serious. You have to be serious about our country, about our laws, and about governance. Not just talking about something and not serious about it. Because even just tonight, the caller said that maybe he never used to listen as much. Imagine that the caller never used to listen much, but the caller now choose to listen more now. So why you should listen to the parliament and whatever happened in your country before? And Mark, you should have said to him that the government of the day had no right to govern. And if you had no right to govern, you had no right to change no boundaries. That is the reality among the many other things. I mean, this caller just continued to be so disappointed when a caller is going to admit to the country and to the world that he had 2 jobs, a government job and another job at the same time, and collecting 2 pays among so many other things, when the caller is going to admit and said that he is not supporting the Labour Party when it is far from the truth, why people cannot be honest? Just declare that you support something. What is wrong in that? But I understand, yes. I accept, yes. And I support, yes, that he has no reason to be proud to be supporting Labour. I understand that. But don't come on in the dying hours of your show and really did not make any contribution, to be honest. Did not make any contribution. But I will leave it there for now, Mark. Let you just continue to wrap up, and we will continue the serious debate that we have going forward. You take care.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. We have about 6 minutes left, and we're taking your calls on 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. This is Mark Brantley, host of On the Mark, and we're having a good night tonight. Riotous behavior here at Von Radio on the show this evening. It's always a good show, always good to engage with different people, different viewpoints, and of course, to get their views and opinions on any matter and any number of things. Let's go back to the phone and see who we have. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night, Mr. Brantley.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, I got to be short. No, I heard you say that we had some new diplomatic relations with some African nations.
Yes. Yes,
now,
we did.
I don't know if it is in your domain, but it would be nice to have some cultural exchange, because some of us have never seen, even all of us black, there is a difference between the different countries. And it would be nice, just like how the Taiwanese came, if we could have an exchange of cultures. Maybe they come for a cultural presentation. I know we have the medical school here, but I think most of them are from Nigeria. Maybe a few from Kenya, I don't know, if any other country. But I know Nigeria and Kenya. And it would be nice if you could, the appropriate ministry could arrange for us to have visits from these African nations, because we want to learn about our people. Because right now, as the world turns, you hear this, when they say make America great again, we all understand what they're talking about. And it would be nice. I met a number of them when I went to the IMF. I met from Ethiopia, quite a Malawi. When I went to India, I met another host at Sierra Leone, you know. So I don't know, is it in your domain?
Well, it is that we can discuss with them.
It will foster good relation, you know, because our people, we are disconnected. I mean, as much as we say we're Africans, because we are Africans. But it would be nice for us to be exposed.
Well, and I think that is happening. It's happening slowly. You mentioned countries like Sierra Leone. I say you mentioned countries like Sierra Leone.
Yes, like I met people from quite a number of African countries.
Yes, and I'm simply saying to you that is part of the effort. Countries like Sierra Leone, Senegal,
Ghana.
You know, Ghana, many of these countries we can now travel to without a visa.
But I'm thinking of a cultural exchange.
Yeah, no. I understand your point. You've been very clear. I'm simply saying that part of the policy that is driving the policy is to make it easier for people to interact. You say that building awareness. Yes, a cultural exchange would help, but also people traveling there would help. People from there traveling here to us would help, because they say the best diplomacy is people to people. So I'm not downplaying your point about the cultural exchange. What do you
think about it? Are we related in any way to the African Union?
We're not. There's no formal mechanism, and that is something that, again, Sinkits and Nevis has been leading the discussion on.
Any Caribbean country is a member?
No.
Or an associate?
No. We're not members of the African Union. I believe Cuba has some relationship with them, but beyond that, no. They're based.
I know a number of Jamaicans have migrated to Ghana.
Yes, well, I mean, but that.
They've gone to Ethiopia.
They've gone. People of the Rastafarian faith some of them have gone to Ethiopia and the like. But the truth of the matter is that so far as we are concerned, we need some better mechanism for engagement between Africa and the Caribbean. So I have proposed, for example, that they consider every 2 years the African Union and CARICOM meets to have a discussion. We have also been discussing at the CARICOM level having some formal diplomatic outposts in Addis Ababa, so that we can engage as a whole of CARICOM.
I recall when I was at Mona, one time, I don't remember what role the person played, but they were an official from one of the African countries came to Mona campus in the theater, and I went. I mean, there was quite a bit. I think the man was taken back by the indifference of the students. But the indifference really is due to lack of information and knowledge.
Sure. Well, and for years we've been taught that Africa is only famine and and things happening around.
The truth is, if you think about it, we say Africa, and we in our mind, we see one country. We see the continent, and we say, oh, Africa, you're from Africa. Without realizing there are 50 countries.
Yes, I think a little bit more than 50, if I recall. I think 52. But
anyway,
yeah.
I want to send, before I leave, on the weekend made 1 year since my brother passed suddenly. My brother George Yampy Richards. So I want to send condolences to his children, Devon and his fiancée, Miss Jimmy, and to all of my relatives over in Nevis, and to all the elderlies, because I hear you're having a march on Friday.
Yes.
So to all the elderlies, I love the elderlies,
okay.
You know.
All right, we got to go. Okay.
All right, then,
thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you to all the callers who called. Let us remember that this Friday at 10 a.m. we're going to have the handing over of the bead wells back to the people of Nevis. So fun, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful occasion right there at Madden's. I want to thank and congratulate Spencer Brand, the minister who's spearheading that effort. And it will be good to own our own water again. We will have a discussion on that, I'm sure, at another time. That's been our show. We invite everyone to go out for the march on Friday with our seniors. And we look forward, certainly, to good times here in our beautiful island of Nevis. For all of those who have tuned in, for all of those who called, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your contribution. We say thank you, good night, and God bless you.